Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we're now quite used to this phenomenon in Europe of elections and that end in outcomes that
Okay.
are undesired by the ruling elites in Brussels and Berlin and in Washington. And then these same ruling elites then declare desired outcomes as just basic, or undesired outcomes rather as invalid. I mean, basically that, that it didn't happen. So
Because people failed again.
that's right. The people have failed us.
People have failed us.
That's right. And it really is. I mean, we used to have fun quoting Bertolt Brecht's poem about the East German government, when he was mimicking them. The people have failed us. It's now time to dissolve the people and elect another. But that's become the norm in the EU. So we saw this in Georgia, where the outcome was highly undesired, and the Georgia Dream Party won conclusively, and the EU had been pouring scorn on that result. Moldova, they cheated like mad because they knew Maya Sandu had no hope whatever of winning the election, so they just absolutely stole it
Well, and
in plain sight.
before we go to Romania, because that's where you want to go, I know. But today, or it was in the last news cycle, is the Georgian Dream Party has decided to suspend EU membership. Okay,
Yeah.
this is such a catastrophic failure for Brussels. I mean, this is it's we try to stay clean here, but I mean this is quite breathtaking for them. Okay, that people are saying no to us. Oh my God, civilizational choice. Okay, and then looking at the just reading headlines in two paragraphs. When I'm looking at Georgia, it's all Russia's fault apparently.
Yes,
It's extraordinary.
it's that's right.
Well,
It's
made from whole cloth.
made
Okay.
up out of a whole lot. And it's very interesting because the Georgia Dream Party, they never say anything positive about Russia. I mean, there's nothing at all to suggest that they are pro-Russian. Um, they do say we don't want to get dragged into wars that do Georgia no good. They've had a bad experience about wars that do Georgia no good. And now, I mean, what they said, we're basically postponing indefinitely these EU accession talks is, well, we want to be treated with respect. We don't like being treated as if we're supplicants, and we come on bended knee for these talks.
In the arrogance of Brussels, one size fits all. Okay, no recognition of each country and their different cultures and populations within countries. Okay, and Georgian Dream Party. I mean, they're a group of people. I mean, they're slurred all the time in Western media, but they're very much pragmatic people. Okay, the war that in August 2008 should have never happened. What did you expect if you attack South Ossetia? They haven't given up on South Ossetia or Abkhazia. Their belief is we will create a demonstration effect. We will lure them back. They will want to come back. That's a very pragmatic
Right,
policy. In the meantime, we're a tiny country.
right,
The country up north is huge. It has a huge economy for us.
right.
Pragmatic, pragmatic. There's not one political force of any significance in Georgia that is pro-Russia at all. Okay,
Exactly.
but just before George and I convened, I read the story in Al Jazeera. I don't know where they make this stuff up.
That's right. But Georgia was also a very interesting case because the EU and the US made such a huge concerted drive to ensure that Georgia was in the Western camp that they littered it with all these NGOs. I mean, they funded these, I don't know, thousands of these NGOs with a view to delivering. Your job is to deliver Georgia to us. And it was so extreme that Georgia ultimately just had to make a decision. We can't let this go on. I mean, we have entire cadre of foreign agents, seeking governmental change here. And so eventually they had to pass some kind of legislation to bring these NGOs under some kind of control. They didn't outlaw them, but they did at least make them accountable. But it was so extreme in Georgia, they had to do something.
I've been told, Georgia is not a rich country. It's a small country. I love Georgian people. I love their food too. But they have some really nice posh cafes and restaurants. It's full of NGO people. Okay, because they're paid in hard currency. They can go to the nice places. Their outsized presence is amazing. Okay, right. And George is right. They're there to deliver. Okay,
that's right.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. And that's a major failed project. They had because they had Shevardnadze, who was a kind of a Western tool. Then they got rid of Shevardnadze because he just wasn't compliant enough, and they brought in Saakashvili, and and
that was a good bet.
Exactly, and that turned into a disaster. But now essentially Georgia's just not in the Western camp anymore, so it's a major defeat for the West. The West is very crude in the way they approach things. They do this Maidan. Maidan worked in Ukraine, but a lot of countries say they looked at it and they say, hey, I don't think we want a Maidan in our capital. It's not a great idea.
And also what they want, and I don't want to, belabor the point. This is about NATO expansion. They want the Ukrainians are running out of troops. Well, maybe we get some Georgians and Moldovans to go there. Okay?
That's right.
No joke, everybody. No joke.
No, exactly. Georgia, small country, strategically important. I mean, it's absolutely, you just look at the map where it is. That's the eastern coast of the Black Sea. That's very much coveted by NATO. It's kind of the route to Turkey, through into Central Asia. That's prime real estate. Again, they don't care about the Georgians, but that's prime real estate for NATO. But now something very similar to these things is going on in Romania. So on Monday when we did the live stream, we talked about this election that took place, presidential election that took place on Sunday, in which this right-wing, far-right, extreme-right candidate, a populist, a nationalist, and pro-Putin, which is a kind of a given, pro-Putin won the first round of the election. And so, and because no one had expected it, then the powers that be declared that this is obviously the result of fraud.
Of course.
And Putin, how else other than Putin? The problem is they still haven't discovered where's the fraud. Who defrauded whom. So they really don't know what to do. I mean, they other than we've got to just cancel this election. I mean, that's their only resort. So I just want to show you a couple of stories about Romania, and here is the story in the Guardian. It says Romanian court to rule on whether presidential election should be rerun. When you get an election that has an undesirable outcome, you just simply cancel it. We're going to cancel this election because our man didn't win. Court has ordered a recount of last week's vote won by far-right pro-Moscow candidate and will decide whether to annul it altogether. This is democracy, values. This is our values. We just simply can annul it. It says here that the head of Romania's election bureau has said the first round of its presidential election could be rerun as the country's constitutional court prepared to decide whether the vote won by a little-known ultra-nationalist should be annulled. And then you got Tony Grebla said a rerun of the 24th of November ballot could be held on the 15th of December, with the second round run off 2 weeks later. The court, which has already ordered a recount of the vote, meets this afternoon to decide whether to annul it altogether. This is this afternoon. That's today.
But the Guardian, I mean, why? Why does there have to be a rerun? Where's the fraud?
Well, that's it. They're
Who's
still trying to
claiming
figure
the
this
fraud?
out. What the problem is.
What's the problem?
Exactly. That's a problem. That Romania is even more important because Romania is already in NATO. Romania is in the EU. It's the home of America's biggest military base in Europe, and they could have a pro-Russian president. They weren't planning on this. They were asleep at the switch. And so then now they're trying to panic and come up for some reason to annul the vote.
So just because you lost, you need to rerun.
Annul
Okay.
it. Yeah. And then he says Romania's presidential office said on Thursday that officials had detected online efforts to influence the vote. Now that's a completely meaningless,
That has nothing to do with what's going on.
but everything, if you're online and you're having a conversation about something, I guess you're influencing the vote. I mean, online efforts to influence the vote, won by this Karlin Georgescu, a far-right Moscow friendly. So they've already said twice he's Moscow friendly, even though he said nothing favorable about Moscow. He just doesn't want the war spreading to Ukraine. I mean, to Romania. Moscow friendly independent who had previously been polling at barely 5%. Well, that's probably because you have lousy polls. I mean,
Right.
and I think that this has been a constant issue with a number of polls that we had in Eastern Europe that they go to the capital, they poll people, and they do a poll in all the Bucharest cafes and say, yeah, 5%.
Yeah, they polled the NGO crowd.
Exactly. Um, And the presidency noted a growing interest on the part of Russia to influence the public agenda in Romanian society. What does that even mean? It's a growing interest on the part of Russia to influence the public agenda in Romanian society. And said Georgescu had benefited from a massive exposure due to preferential treatment by the social media platform TikTok.
It's TikTok's fault. Okay.
It's TikTok's fault.
I thought
Uh,
the Chinese ran that
That's right. He
operation.
said that's
It's
the
the
thing.
Russians? No.
That's
Okay.
right. But so they're trying to blame this on TikTok, but TikTok says, well, prove it. Don't just accuse us of favoring Georgescu. Come up, show us some evidence. But they don't have it. It's the same with that woman who was the president of Georgia who announced, oh yeah, Russia interfered in the Georgian election. Do you have any evidence of that? I don't need no stinking evidence. Go to the investigating authorities and ask them for evidence. So, you don't
And
have to
why are you
present
making
evidence.
the claim if you don't have any evidence?
Um, and so TikTok has dismissed the allegations, saying it enforces guidelines against election misinformation. A spokesperson on Thursday said it was categorically false to suggest Georgescu's account was treated differently from other candidates. Georgescu has called for an end to the war in Ukraine, denied the existence of COVID-19, described two Second World War era Romanian fascists as national heroes, and claimed that in foreign affairs, Romania would benefit from Russian wisdom.
Well, you could say, well, if any of this is true, I mean, this is the Guardian after all.
Exactly. I mean, and it's
I
also
don't know. Maybe, this is what they claim. Okay.
exactly that's the point. Whenever they say these things, you have no idea. What kind of praise? Whom has he praised? And it all seems to be a little contradictory because the
Yeah.
fascists were kind of they didn't like the Russians. It was a very
Yeah.
anti-Russian
Yeah.
fascism. It's
They
unsurprising.
remember Stalingrad, everybody. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Romanians were part of the invasion of the Third Reich. Um, so this is Politico. Naturally, Politico is in the forefront. And TikTok's Romanian reckoning. Regulators suspect foul play in how far-right firebrand Georgescu used the Chinese-owned app to sway voters. But I love the Chinese-owned. What are the Chinese? The Chinese couldn't care less about Romania. I mean, the whole idea that Chinese are really very concerned about what goes on in Romania. Um, So it says the shock victory of an ultra-nationalist pro-Russian candidate in the first round of Romania's presidential election is turning into a defining test of accountability for TikTok.
Oh, so we're going to get the election annulled, the new election, and we're going to ban TikTok. Well, that's a
Exactly.
really broad brush here.
It's abroad, but ban TikTok. I suspect they're also going to prevent Georgescu from running next time because you can't trust the Romanians. They might just vote for him again, so they can't allow him. So I'm sure they're going to prevent him from running if they redo the election. For years, the Chinese-owned special media app has brushed off security concerns in the United States and Europe that it could be used for mass manipulation. But it now faces an intense regulatory storm in Bucharest over whether it played a role in skewing the democratic process in an EU country of 19 million people.
Or just maybe everyone, a good part of the electorate doesn't care what the regime media has to say. They don't care what NGOs have to say. Maybe they went to TikTok because they got a different message and they liked it. Okay. That's most likely what happened.
That's right. And it's very similar to the problem that TikTok had ran into in the United States. That, hey, people are getting all sorts of messages on TikTok, and suddenly Congress passed legislation banning TikTok unless TikTok, changed its ownership. But what was it? It wasn't, oh, the whole thing of China. They knew. No, it was different news about the Middle East. That was the problem. That's why they suddenly everyone in Congress got angry at TikTok. It has nothing to do with China. That whole issue of China, no one paid any attention to. It was suddenly they were getting news they're not supposed to be getting. Um, and then he goes on, media regulators and election observers are zeroing in on how Georgescu, an unknown far-right NATO skeptic fan of Russian President Vladimir
That
Putin,
is a great phrase. We copy that one. That's a good.
far-right NATO skeptic fan of Russian President Vladimir Putin. And they always say this about Orban. Oh, he's a fan of Putin's. He's never, but it doesn't mean anything. They just throw these words around like a fan of Putin. Was suddenly catapulted from obscurity into what some politicians and experts suspect is a covert operation conducted through thousands of fake accounts. I always love this suspect. So they don't have any evidence. So the operation now is come up with some evidence. Find some thousands of fake accounts and say, oh, is these thousands of fake accounts? That explains
Yeah,
the
but
selection result.
did these fake accounts vote?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that. I mean, I don't. I mean, they voted. People voted, and he won the vote. So I don't get the relate what a
Don't
fake
see.
account's got to do with that.
How does a fake account generate a vote? I have no
It,
idea.
it doesn't. But you remember the after Trump's win in 2016, we had all these fake accounts and bots on Facebook. The whole story that somehow that was Russian interference. But then again, if they were unable to explain, well, how do ads on Facebook, whatever, however many ads, how do they explain how people voted? I mean, it's because they see some stupid ad, they're gonna vote for Trump.
Well, maybe, Romania is in a pretty dangerous neighborhood right now. Maybe people voted for this guy because they don't want to have happen in Romania what's happening
Right.
in Ukraine. I mean, I don't know.
It,
That's maybe
it's a
I'm
wild
crazy.
idea. That's a wild idea that they don't want. I think there's a consistent element. Hungary, Slovakia, Romania that are in a dangerous neighborhood. They don't want to be in a dangerous neighborhood. They want to kind of enjoy a peaceful life, and it's being taken away
Well,
from them.
and again, they were sold a false bill of goods. NATO will protect you. You'll have an umbrella.
Right,
Well, it doesn't look that way right now.
right,
Okay,
right,
when you have all these Ukrainians flooding into your country.
right.
Romania is not a rich place. Okay, they cannot absorb so many people.
No,
Okay, they
no,
just can't.
no, exactly. Um, and then for TikTok, owned by ByteDance, a company headquarters in Russia's communist ally,
Ah,
China.
God. Politico's really going over the top on this one. Wow.
Communist ally. I mean, I love this. The suggestion there that Russia also may be a communist. If you say Russia's communist ally, it is a moment of reckoning. The backlash in Romania is reminiscent of what Facebook faced um, in the wake of the 2016 Brexit referendum vote and the revelations that big data from Cambridge Analytica had helped the Leave campaign by gaming social media and influencing users in opaque, nefarious ways. And that never gone anywhere. It
Never
never
got.
went anywhere. This is they went, constantly made this claim about Brexit. But the fact is, all the polls suggest that the British are very happy at having left Brexit. There's no movement at all in Britain for a return to the EU. So, in fact, every single vote there's been since 2016 was an affirmation of Brexit.
Well, I mean, so you're telling me, or these Politico is trying to tell us, is that only nefarious elements use bots and accounts. I wonder, all of the NGOs in Georgia and Moldova and Romania, they weren't doing that? No, of course not. Okay. It's just that the message they were sending out didn't resonate with people.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's definitely a problem. Um, and then the catchy TikTok clips that powered Georgescu's unexpected surge were accompanied by dramatic music and subtitles.
Well, that's never happened before,
The
George.
swine, they had
Never happened before.
catchy tunes. Uh, that's the whole point of TikTok. That's all it does. It provides these that you can easily make your own catchy little video, whatever, lasting 1 or 2 minutes, and everyone can do it. That's the whole point. Why TikTok is so popular, particularly among young people, because it's just so easy to do. Yeah, and they all have very catchy music that you can just simply create yourself. Um, and and again, and the other candidates, they weren't able to do this.
He was shown fair. Read this. This is fantastic.
He was shown barely breaking a sweat on the running track, flipping opponents in judo a la Putin, because nobody else does judo other than Putin, and riding a white horse in a traditional Romanian shirt. Well,
No
that
wonder,
probably is
no
why.
wonder people voted for him.
Exactly. So, well, they were showing him riding a white horse. Well, yeah,
Yeah, and maybe because the other candidates were sitting in a posh cafe in Brussels, talking to some bureaucratic stiff, and they think that's cool.
that's right.
No, riding a white horse with traditional Romanian shirt. No wonder we won.
Well, he won exactly flipping opponents in judo. That's a pretty impressive. I mean, anybody who knows who can do judo, people are going to be impressed. But I noticed all of these things. He breaking a sweat on the running track, flipping opponents in judo, riding a white horse. What has that got to do with Russia and Putin or anything else? It sounds like he's doing things that are likely to appeal to ordinary people. The authorities in Bucharest have flagged various irregularities, our good friend, various irregularities, over TikTok's general handling of the election, opacity over who paid for Georgescu's online campaign, and frustration with TikTok over the app's slow responses to authorities' requests. Now, the thing when you read this is, well, you haven't got anything. You're floundering around. You're calling this election into question, and you're hoping that somewhere or other you're going to find some evidence of something nefarious, but you don't have anything. Lack of transparency, um, and then various irregularities. Then it says Romania's Supreme Council of Defense found cyber attacks had attempted to swing the election.
Attempted. Did they?
Yes. How? Yes. Exactly. Had attempted. How? Yeah. Exactly.
What does that mean?
Doesn't mean anything. I don't understand what that means. How does a cyber attack swing an election? Would they attack voting machines? Switch the voting machines over?
Oh, and strongly suggested that Russia could have played a role in that. Well, maybe some Romanians did.
Well, and exactly. And I don't know whether cyber, is that how Romania counts its votes using machines? I mean, we know that's America, and even they're supposed to be the machines are not vulnerable to cyber attacks. So I would have thought Romania counts its votes by hand. People just count and then add them up. I don't think they have machine voting. I mean, that's an American thing. Specifically, the council said in a statement that TikTok had failed to mark one unnamed candidate, presumably Georgescu, as an electoral candidate, meaning his videos weren't categorized under an election code as required by Romanian law. This increased his visibility significantly, the council said, and had an impact on the final result in contravention of the rules. But again, you're making this up. You just said, oh, this had an impact. They're trying to find a basis for annulling the election. I mean, that they're all scrambling around to try to find a reason to cancel that election result. And so, yeah, his videos weren't categorized under an election code as required by Romanian laws. It's probably not even true.
Well, and who does that? Is that his fault?
Exactly. Um, and then
I mean, it's a real stretch, everyone. TikTok has a dog in the game in Romania, really? That's that's
yeah,
kind of like that's kind of like a punchline to a bad joke.
that's right. Exactly. That's right. The Defense Council, but that's the point. I mean, this whole thing with TikTok. I mean, TikTok is just it's a money-making machine. It's extremely lucrative for China. And that's why all the accusations in the United States were always beside the point. Oh, China, oh, they were just making a lot of money. It's an extremely valuable enterprise. So
And people got information that they wanted.
right. The Defense Council is asking that law enforcement authorities investigate TikTok further over violations of Romanian electoral law. Romania's top court is also asking for an election recount. But I don't even get the election recount. I mean, he won. I mean, when you do a recount, you just basically confirm. I mean, all that happens is you can have 50, 100 votes going the other way, but what's an election recount going to do other than if you're basically trying to cancel all the
Well,
votes that you want to cancel?
my suspicion is a recount would probably enhance his win
Yes.
because these election authorities would probably suppressed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. TikTok denies that Georgescu was treated differently. They say it is categorically false to claim his account was treated differently to any other candidate, as the spokesperson said, adding that the far right winner was treated in the same way every other candidate on TikTok and subject to exactly the same rules and restrictions. And basically, you've got to come up with some evidence that he was treated differently, which hasn't happened. And then Romanian authorities have shared their findings with Brussels.
Of course they have.
Go to Brussels. Hey, but I think Brussels wants to know what the hell's going on here. We weren't watching this. We were watching Moldova, but we thought you had this one in hand with Brussels about TikTok's measures during the election. The European Commission will now meet TikTok and other social media platforms ahead of the second round of the presidential on December the 8th. They're going to meet with TikTok.
Yeah, but what does the European Commission have to do with elections in Romania?
This is, yes.
I mean, you look, I mean, Romanian authority, you can come and talk to myself and George. We can give, I mean, it's the same
right.
standing. What's the standing here?
That's right, exactly. What's your standing to discussing? But somehow they're going to talk to TikTok about what? What are you supposed to talk to TikTok about other than, hey, don't allow the users to go on TikTok if they're likely to vote for Georgescu. I mean, you just simply ban everybody who's likely to vote for Georgescu on TikTok. I mean, but I don't know what else. What are they going to talk about with TikTok? If the commission suspects a breach on the basis of the evidence at our disposal, it can open proceedings to look into TikTok's compliance with the DSA, that's the Digital Service Act obligations. Spokesperson Thomas Renier said. But where does the DSA come into all of this? At the same time, the commission does not interfere in national elections and seeks to ensure within its competences a level playing field for all candidates.
But what they're going to do is see a level playing field for all candidates. No, they're just going to get rid of the playing field, George.
That's right, exactly. It's going to be a level. Again, you haven't come up with any evidence that there wasn't a level playing field, but the guy who was the prime minister, he came in third. Well, he doesn't, if you're a prime minister, you don't like coming in third in an election, obviously, and he's not happy. And then allegations have been swirling that Georgescu's rise wasn't just boosted by catchy viral content. Researchers and NGOs have pointed to two questionable tactics that Georgescu could have relied on for his account to be picked up by TikTok's algorithm. Either fake accounts were deployed in a coordinated campaign to push his account, or influencers were paid to directly promote his account.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go down this path, then can we take a look at every single candidate, what they did on TikTok?
Well, that's right.
Were there influencers? Did you directly pay people? Let's let everybody have a little transparency.
I think so. Exactly. But again, what has that got to do with who wins an election? I mean, it's okay. So I don't know. The people seem to like his videos. They liked, his riding a white horse, wearing a traditional Romanian shirt. What has it got to do with algorithm? What has it got to do with how people voted? Kamala Harris raised far more money than Donald Trump did. She had far more of a presence on social media than Donald Trump did. It didn't do her any good.
Yeah, did you see the post-mortem video?
Yeah, I saw that, yes.
Oh my God. She was loaded.
She was loaded, yes.
I mean, she couldn't speak grammatically.
Yes, yes. To date, we have found no evidence of a covert influence operation on our platform within the last several weeks of the ongoing presidential election in Romania, nor evidence of foreign influence, the platform said in a letter, this is TikTok, which was addressed to Romanian authorities. TikTok added that it had removed over 150 impersonation accounts linked to Georgescu and more than 650 accounts linked to other candidates.
Oh.
Well, because everyone's doing this stupid thing.
Of course, everybody's doing this.
I don't even know what the point of it is. People doing these fake accounts.
I can barely maintain my one account.
Anyway, so now, if I were to make a guess, I think they're going to annul this election because they're just scrambling around and they don't know what to do, and they're really facing the serious prospect that he's going to win. He's going to win the second round. He's got the momentum. The person who came in second, it seems like a weak candidate. They don't think that this person who came in second is going to be any real challenge in the second round. I think they're going to have to just annul this election. But they're going to have to come up with some barely plausible explanation as to why are they canceling it.
Just can't happen because largest American military base in Europe.
Right.
You can't have this guy around.
Yeah.
No. Because American military largesse and hegemony trumps democracy every day of the week.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly it.
It just, I mean, even Politico, which is they're ideologically possessed people. It's really obvious. Okay. I mean, that article is an embarrassment, George. And anyone objectively reading it is not ideologically possessed is going to say, what is wrong with you people?
That's right.
It's getting to the point now where I don't even try to understand these people. You can't understand stupid.
Right.
You can't understand people like this that work with these kind of facilities.
Right.
Okay? Democracy is either you support her or you don't. Okay? There's no in between
That's
here.
right. Yeah.
Okay? You lost.
Yep.
The guy has a flair. Maybe riding, shirtless on a white Romanian horse tells us that, Brussels and that whole project isn't really, it
Right.
really hasn't sold itself well to the population.
Right.
And again, largest American military base, Ukraine, escalation.
Exactly. It's Black Sea. They got to use Romania as the transport hub, chief transport hub to getting arms into Ukraine. Arms and personnel to Ukraine go through Romania. So with this guy as the president, there's no guarantee that they're going to pull this off. That's why they say we've just got to annul this election, and presumably the next step will be they have to ban this guy running, because if they annul the election and have another one, he could well win again, and maybe even by a bigger margin, because people are going to be annoyed by having their election annulled. So that's a real risk. I think they're going to try to prevent him from running. But it just shows the extent to which Europe is an enemy of democracy. I mean, this is this we go through this all the time. Every time there's an election, they have to think about how we're going to steal this one, or how are we going to cancel an election or basically you cancel it by claiming Putin.
And how many political parties have to be banned?
Right. That's the next step. You obviously have to ban parties by saying, oh well, they're pro Putin, so we got to ban them. Why? Oh, because it's against our values. That's the reason. Yeah, this party is against our values. So yeah, that's all you can do.
And this is not an outlier. George is absolutely right. This is the trend.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This is not a quirk. It's part of the system now. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you know, Ukraine's democracy, there's no political opposition allowed whatsoever. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. I mean, we got our hands full now. We got Georgia, we got Moldova, we got Romania.
Yeah.
Okay. Not many people are doing it. Remember us.
Exactly.
George does the heavy lifting for
We,
us.
we follow this very carefully. No one does this. Barely getting any coverage. So this is what we do here, the gaggle. So that means, as the dogs point out, because they're doing the heavy lifting, yeah, you gotta put food on our plate.
There we go. I just watered the dogs. That's how thirsty they are. You have to understand, living in Moscow, everything is counterintuitive when it comes to winter. Is that it's below zero outside, but I have the window open because it's so hot inside. Okay, my dogs get dehydrated all of the time. Okay, so winter in Russia means you sweat inside. You in the metro, it's so hot. Okay, it's a greenhouse. Okay.
I guess it's a little the opposite of the United States, where in the summer they always have the air conditioning on too high, so people go inside and suddenly they're freezing. Hey, I need to put on a sweater because otherwise I can't sit in this restaurant.
Well, I was brought up in the U.S. I spent 15 years in California. I need cool air around me
Yeah,
all
I
the
do as well, but I know people. I'm the same way as you, but
there are
people
a
are
lot of
always
Russians.
complaining that they're freezing.
There's a lot of Russians that hate air conditioning and
Right,
just hate it.
right.
And in the Moscow Underground, this is great because you can even get it on your app, and you know which train cars have air conditioning and no air conditioning. So you could check the app. Oh, it's car number 15 that has air conditioning,
Right.
and they tell you where it is. You can get right in there. Okay, so yeah, it's the battle of the air conditioning. I have it every time I go to my studio because I have an undershirt, a shirt, often a vest, and then my coat, and I need air conditioning. And the cameramen saying, no, because we have to wear our winter jackets because you want to have air conditioning on. The battle of air conditioning all the time. Anyway, everybody, as I said, on a serious note, I'm going to keep an eye on these places because it's very, very important for the reasons that George and I have enumerated in this video. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on it. This is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is our wrap for Friday. We're going to do another mega wrap on Sunday, and we do a live stream on Monday.
Live stream on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Please join us. Come with interesting, stimulating, challenging questions. We really love addressing them. And then on Tuesday, it's time for my solo live stream. So, these dogs, this only tells us really how angry the dogs are. Bad enough it's winter outside. It's damn hot inside. They're in a foul mood. And the condition of the tip jar, that ain't helping. So if you have some money in your pocket stashed away in a teapot, bring it out, dunk them into the tip jar. That might smooth a few things. So we're very grateful
Lose
for
some fur. Okay.
Exactly, smooth the fur. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we can have dogs in a better frame of mind. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.